All right, welcome everybody. I just want to thank you guys for joining us tonight for another virtual event for the UVA Club of Tidewater. I'm Melvina Queen. I'm one of the co-presidents for our club. Melissa, my co-president, is actually on the call tonight as well. So she's off camera right now because she's got her baby with her, but she's going to enjoy some of the tasting with us as well. And I just wanted to let everybody know to be on the lookout for future events that help keep us connected as fellow who's. Our next event is going to be on June 14th. It's going to be a cupcake decorating, family-friendly event. So if you're interested in doing that, Twisted Sisters Sugar Shack will be providing the cupcake kits for you guys to purchase and pick up. And then we'll jump onto Zoom and decorate together. So if you guys have any little ones, or if you yourself are a baking enthusiast, think about joining us for that. If you guys check out our Facebook page, you'll notice that we are doing the Jefferson Book Awards right now. So go ahead over to the page and see some of the students that have already received their book awards for the year. And we'll continue to post as we get more of those books out to the students in the Tidewater area. And just as a reminder, I know all of you have seen, the university is still welcoming donations for the UVA Student Life and Leadership Fund, which is promoted by the Division of Student Affairs. And that fund helps students with unexpected expenses, which they've had a lot in recent times. So our club donated $500, and we're just asking for people to donate something or even match our contribution. And so with that, I want to thank Big Ugly Brewing for being with us tonight. So we actually have a lot of UVA ties over there. So Jim Lantry, he's with us tonight. He's one of the co-owners, and he actually graduated from the School of Nursing in 1998. Along with his co-owner, Sean Childer's wife, Erin. She's one of the business managers for Big Ugly, and she graduated from the College of Arts and Sciences in 1995. And he's joined tonight with Evan. So I'm going to hand everything over to Jim so he can tell us all about Big Ugly and take us through our tasting.
All right, thanks. So I'm Jim. This is my son, Evan, who's our head brewer. And Big Ugly is out in Chesapeake in the Great Bridge area. Most of you know that because you picked the beers up. We've been in business going into our 6th year. So we're coming up on 2 years in this location here. We had another 4 years down the street in the strip mall. Started, and at some point, my neighbor and friend, Sean Childers, suggested, you know, we should open up a brewery. You're making pretty good beer. I was winning some awards. Things were coming along fine, and there was nothing similar to it in Chesapeake. So we opened up our shop in the strip mall. We started with some old used equipment from Washington State and worked our way up to, you can see the equipment behind us is all the pretty stainless stuff that we're using now. So this has been quite a journey for us, to say the least. What else can I say? Evan used to homebrew with me, and that's how he got into this. So it's kind of a trial by error, learning as you go deal. Evan does a lot more reading, and he's a lot better brewer than I am. So it's worked out real well. Right now we have a 15-barrel brew house, which is a barrel's 30 gallons. So that's the size of batch we do. We can double those and do 30 barrels at a time. And we're producing about 1,800 barrels of beer a year. Compare that to somebody like Anheuser-Busch. I think they're 40 million, I think was the last time I heard. And you get an idea that we're really a very small part of the overall beer industry. But the beers we make here, we put a lot of passion into it. We'll sit around and collaborate on recipes all the time, trying to figure out different grain bills and different hop combinations and flavor combinations. So we make some really interesting beers here. And some of the ones that we're going to have tonight, one in particular, it's the Ghost Rider. If you look at the Ghost Rider in the corner here, it's the Great American Beer Festival symbol. And 2 years ago, we won a bronze medal in the GABF in Denver, Colorado. This is the largest beer competition in the United States. And there were, gosh, I think 9,000 entries.
8 to 9,000, I think.
So for us to be recognized in any capacity at all was amazing. We were the only brewery in Hampton Roads that year to win a medal. And it brought me to tears. I'll have to tell you that it's a little embarrassing, but having gone to that festival multiple years, to actually come out with an award from it was just spectacular. So we're doing some limited canning now, and especially with COVID, this has come in really handy. So we're fortunate enough to have 5 different beers that we can. We've got 3 more that we'll be putting out in cans next week. So if you like what you see tonight, be sure to consider coming back next week for what we have available. So can I open it up to questions? Anybody has any questions about the brewery?
Do you guys want to type your questions into the chat, and then I can ask them for Jim and Evan?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit more while people are putting questions in. We also do some barrel aging, and with that we take, here's a question. We take some used bourbon barrels, particularly out from Kentucky. We use a lot of Buffalo Trace barrels, and we'll put stouts in there and let them sit in there for 6 to 8 months. Now, there's a good question. Morning Commute coming back. Morning Commute is coming back with this next canning run next week. So you'll be able to get cans of it. Morning Commute is what we call a golden stout. It's a light colored golden beer, but we add chocolate, coffee, vanilla, and we try to reproduce the flavors of a stout. The other question on there, which is also a good one, is where did the name Big Ugly come from? So my partner, Sean, he's into cars. He's into old Chevys. I'm into old Volkswagens. Hence, we have a Volkswagen bus. Years ago, we drove down to Atlanta, he and I, and we pulled a 1955 Chevy panel truck out of the woods, drug it back, and basically restored it. And on the way back, I remember looking back at that car on the back of a car carrier, and I said, boy, that is one big, ugly truck. We wrote Big Ugly on the side of it, and when we decided to do the brewery together, we just decided, well, let's just name it after the truck. No one's ever going to take that name. So that's how the Big Ugly name came. I think right now we have about 12 beers on tap.
16, I think, right
16, he says, yeah. And by next week, we'll have 19 different beers on tap. So I guarantee you there's a beer for everybody in this collection. We all have different interests in what we like to drink and brew. When I was home brewing, I almost did nothing but exclusively Russian Imperial stouts. I loved big, heavy, high alcohol Russian Imperial stouts. I also like sour beers. So when we opened up with 2 sours, a Russian Imperial stout, and an IPA. Evan's more leans towards the IPA and the different flavor profiles of hops. So that's kind of his thing. And we all have input on flavor combinations that we use.
I think everyone's thirsty.
Oh, distribution, yes. Just a little bit. Erin, Sean's wife, does Pretty Ugly distributing. So she distributes our beer as well as some other area breweries. And we don't have a big footprint because most of the beer we make gets sold in-house, but we do distribute a little bit as far up as Richmond.
Yep.
All right, let's start with the first beer of the night, Peake Lager. We're going to start light and work our way up to heavy beers. So Evan, why don't you describe this beer? You made it.
All right. So this is it's a Pilsner. It's technically an Italian style Pilsner. And they call it an Italian style simply for the fact that we dry hop it. So we add hops in later after the fermentation. It lends a nice crisp flavor to the beer, just a little bit of floral notes, a little floral flavor. And it just overall, it just kind of rounds out the beer. It adds a little bit more than you would get from a typical regular Pilsner, like a Miller Lite or something.
We don't make too many lagers. And the reason being is that the lagers are a little more difficult and a lot more time consuming to make. So whereas a traditional ale, which is a different type of yeast, and it ferments at a higher temperature, we can go start to finish and finish an ale in about 3 weeks. A lager is 8 weeks minimum. In fact, we make a Doppelbock, which is a dark lager, and it's 3 months in the fermenter. So it's a long process. So for a small brewery like us, we don't really want to tie up a fermenter for an entire 3 months. But this is a good summery beer. It's clean, it's crisp.
Yeah, 4.3%.
Very
really
light.
easy to drink. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a real nice example of a Pilsner. It's not going to be real hoppy. It's got just enough bitterness to give it a little bit of a bite. And if you're looking for a lighter beer you can take to the beach and drink, or on a picnic or something like that, this is probably going to be your beer. You can drink, most people can drink more than a few of these. It's
4.3%.
4.3%. So it's a lower alcohol beer. And it's tasting real nice right now. Sometimes certain beers you want to wait and let them age a little bit. You really can't let a lager go too long. They just get better. The can design was done by my partner, Sean. So if you're familiar with Chesapeake, you'll recognize a few things on there. It's the old Great Bridge where the Battle of Great Bridge took place. Somewhere on here is the Gilmerton Bridge up at the top. And of course, Peake stands for Peake Lager. So a lot of Chesapeake in this one for sure. Chesapeake's first microbrewery. There are now 2 microbreweries in Chesapeake, but we will always be the first.
So someone wants to know if you guys can, if anyone can buy in Charlottesville. I don't know if you answered that in your expanding distribution.
I don't think so yet, but we're getting very close. Yeah, we've picked up some breweries, at least Erin has, from that part of the world. And I know she's distributing some things from Brothers Brewing in, where's Brothers? Stanton? Harrisonburg. So because she's going as far as Harrisonburg, there may be a way to get some beer up to Charlottesville as well. I'd like to get some, I've been to Seaville in a while, but I think Beer Run was a popular beer store last time I was up there.
And then someone asked, what are your 4 top beers in sales?
Wow. So the 4 top beers, probably number 1 is Rocker's IPA.
The next one,
which we're going to have next. Number 2 is the Blonde Ale, another a really light, crisp ale. 3 is this right now,
honestly, it's right here,
the lager. And the 4th is the Porter. We'll get that as well. A lot of people are afraid of big, dark beers. They think they're going to be heavy, thick, and they're not. It's if you're not a big dark beer fan, hopefully you'll get over that tonight and learn to like it. A lot of people like red wines, like dark beers. So there's a little bit of crossover there. And our porter is special. We'll get to that in a minute, but it's a different ball game. All right, everybody, should we go to the next beer? I could start talking about it for a minute at least. All right. This beer takes a little explanation. So you have to remember that my partner Sean is not only is he a beer guy and a Chevy guy, but he's a British motorcycle enthusiast. So when you come into the brewery, you'll see a bunch of Triumphs, BSGs, Royal Enfields, old bikes. Most of them turned into seats. Last year we raffled off a 1969 Royal Enfield for a charity event, and it was beautiful. But back in the 60s in Britain, there were 2 motorcycle, I guess you'd call them gangs. They were very polite gangs. There was the Rockers and the Mods. And the Rockers were kind of the tougher guys. They wore leather. They rode Triumphs. The Mods wore suit and ties, and they rode scooters. And the 2 apparently didn't get along. they're still there, but probably less prominent than they used to be back in the day. So Rockers is named after that. We do have a pale ale we brew called Mods Pale Ale, and it's got a guy on a scooter in a suit and tie. So this beer, a little bit heavier on the alcohol side. It's 7.3%. It's got a stronger malt bill, so you'll get a little more of a malty flavor with it, and definitely a lot more hops. And the type of hops are very different from the ones we use in the Pilsner.
Exactly.
These hops are more in there for flavor, whereas the other beer, the hops were in there for bitterness to balance the sweetness of the malt. With this one, you want to balance that sweetness of the malt, but you also want to get some flavor out of it. So the flavors that you should get out of this beer, a lot of citrusy flavors. It's predominantly brewed with a hop called Citra. It's the citrus flavors. So you should get some predominantly grapefruit. You may smell it on the nose. And a lot
of tropical fruit. I get a lot of mango.
Mango, grapefruit, yeah. So I'm a hophead, so I love hoppy beers. But if you're into IPAs, most people are looking for that tropical fruit, citrusy flavor in their IPA. This is it's like I said, one of our best-selling beers since the day we opened. The recipe has changed just slightly over the years, but pretty much now anything that comes out is the same beer over and over.
So Jim, Anne said she missed the ABV for Rockers.
Oh, 7.3.
Okay.
The version of this that we're canning this next week is our Mango Rockers, and we only release that once a year. So we take this base beer and we add mango puree to it and let it sit on that puree for about a week. And then we chill it to drop the precipitates out, and we'll put it in a bright tank to carbonate it and can it. So it's this beer with a whole lot stronger mango flavor. Mm-hmm. It's a popular beer. It sells good. So that'll be available in cans. Non-alcoholic options. We kind of do. We don't have any non-alcoholic beer, but I make a root beer that is insanely good. So once every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how fast we're going through the root beer, I'll brew up 30 gallons of root beer. And we steep Indian sarsaparilla root for an hour. We add a little bit of extract. We charge the root beer with honey. It is really special stuff.
We're canning the mango gets canned next Thursday. It'll be available that afternoon. So
yeah, next weekend for sure.
Next weekend.
But if you're not a beer fan, come try the root beer. I have a guy. He's a really old gentleman. He lives in the land of the Ozarks out in Missouri. And he makes this root beer concentrate that we found that we use. And the recipe is in an old folder that they've perfected over the last 50 years. And he only sells small quantities of this stuff. And I'm hoping to get the recipe for him before he goes out of business, because it is really spectacular stuff. Yeah, so this beer would be good during the summer. You know, I always say if you're eating tacos, spicy food, this beer would go well with that. Oh boy.
One of my favorites.
All right, so why don't you describe the leaf peepers? Well, let me explain a little bit.
Open up a little bit.
Anybody watch Family Guy? I'm embarrassed to say I'm addicted to Family Guy. And this next beer is a New England style IPA, and there was a Family Guy episode where Peter Griffin's complaining about all the leaf peepers that come up to the Northeast New England to look at leaves in the fall. So we figured, hey, it's a New England style IPA. Let's call it leaf peepers. Of course, I had to explain that to everybody, and I still do. If you don't watch Family Guy, you don't get it. But yeah, leaf peepers is it's a different type of IPA. So we're
He's wrong. He's wrong.
this IPA is a West Coast IPA. It's clear, it's crisp. The hop profile is in there, but it's not necessarily in your face. This next beer, it's brewed completely differently, so the hop profile is a completely different way to do it. You can explain it a little.
So the whole idea with the New England IPA is just you want all the flavor of the hops to shine, but you don't want any of the bitterness. So we hop it a little differently. It barely gets hopped in the boil kettle, and then it gets heavily dry hopped after fermentation. So you end up with a beer that's not bitter, but it has just copious amounts of hop aroma, hop flavor, and they're crazy good drinking. But yeah, this one, if you just smell it, you'll get tons and tons of tropical fruit aromas, mango, papaya, peach.
And it uses similar hops from the rock.
Very similar hops, just utilized differently.
In a different way. We also add some oats to it. We want a little bit of that protein haze that stays in the beer that keeps it hazy. And the thinking is that the way we use the hops, the hop resins that produce all the flavors that you get from the hop will then bind to that protein that stays in suspension. So you'll get a much hoppier beer, but you don't get the bitterness that you would normally get with a West Coast IPA. These can be super bitter. This is the New England style is described often as juicy. So if you're afraid of a bitter IPA, you may find the New England style is more to your liking. Yeah, I'm still drinking the other one. I'm still drinking Rockers.
So Nikki asked, she said she thought leaf peepers referred to the dismal swamp tree frogs that make so much noise.
Oh, those leaf peepers.
No, but you know, I like that. No, it's a whole lot more sophomoric than that. But yeah, if we made this all the time, we would sell out of this all the time. But it's a very popular beer, but it's also a very expensive beer to make because we use about 5 times the hops at least.
It's crazy.
Maybe 10 times the hops that we would put in our Rockers.
Yeah.
I don't know if well, none of you folks probably are buying hops from Yakima Valley, Washington, but the hops that we use in here are very expensive. We use a lot of Citra, and we use another one called Galaxy. And Galaxy is grown in Australia or New Zealand?
Australia.
Australia.
Only in Australia.
So it's only in Australia, so they have to be imported, and they cost an arm and a leg. But we found that hop gives it so much flavor that we have to do it.
We have Peepers with most of the can designs.
Yes.
Yeah. We've got leaf peepers, rockers, Peake Lager. Yeah, we have t-shirts for all of them.
We're starting an online store here real soon that you'll be able to, if you're not in the area, you can still get online and order some of the stuff. We haven't quite figured out ordering beer yet. I think we're going to get our license that you could also order a 6-pack. You can even get beers and t-shirts sent to you anywhere in the state. One of the few good things that's come out of this quarantine is that the alcohol laws have loosened up a little bit.
So Cindy asked, how long does it take from when you start the process to actually canning the beer?
I like to give every beer 1 month. You can do it a little quicker. 3 weeks usually is a good number, but I like to let everything sit for 1 month, and then I'm happy with how it is. It just takes a little bit longer to kind of sit in condition, but yeah.
A month on the ales, 8 weeks at least
2,
on the
3 months
lagers.
On the lagers, yeah.
And some of the beers like this, I said, this is one of our probably more expensive beers to make, just because of the crazy amount of hops that go into it. Some of the beers, the lagers are very inexpensive to make, but it takes 8 weeks and ties up a tank for 2 months.
This one also gets 60 pounds of Virginia wildflower honey too.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Yep, we do a lot of honey in brewing. So what the honey does, we'll put the honey in during the boiling phase. So you're not going to get honey flavor out of it, but it's additional sugar that, yeah, I'll address that in a second. It's additional sugar that then ferments out. So it allows us to brew a double or an Imperial IPA, which is a little higher alcohol beer without having to be too heavy and malty. It dries the beer out a little bit. And somebody asked if I got a haircut. Yes, I did. So
I think that's actually Gary's question.
oh. Yes. Ciders. That's a good question.
That's good.
We don't have a license to brew ciders because ciders you have to have a wine license. But
we found a loophole.
There's a loophole. If your beer cider hybrid is 51% grain, you can brew a cider. We can't call it cider. No. It's a made-up style. So what we've done, what's the name of that beer?
Pink Cadillac.
Pink Cadillac. So Pink Cadillac, if you see that on our list, that is a beer hybrid mix. It's 51% grain. It's 49% apple concentrate, which is what cider would be. And then we add additional adjuncts to that resulting beer cider mix. Usually fruit adjuncts.
A small amount of fruit, usually cranberry, peach, or what did we do this last time? Cranberry and tangerine, which was really good.
It's very, very good. And if you like ciders, it's very close to a straight up cider.
Yeah, for me, it tastes just like a hard cider.
Yeah, I had to shave my beard and my head. It's been a rough month for me. The can says is Imperial IPA. So specific ABV cutoff between regular and Imperial.
I'd say once you start pushing past 8%, that's when I would consider it Imperial. Even 7.5 or so is kind of pushing it for a regular IPA.
Right. This is a beer we sell in a smaller. We don't sell this in a pint glass either. You know, we're cautious in that I want people to enjoy the beer, but I don't want to deal with drunk people. And you know, knock wood, we're not a bar. We don't have a bouncer. We close early. We're doing everything we can not to deal with drunk people, and it's worked out pretty good. The crowd that comes in here is an adult crowd, and they like to hang out. Never been when you walk in and the brewery's packed and people are sitting at their tables and they're talking to each other, and you won't sometimes see a single soul on the cell phone. So it's unusual. It's a very family-oriented place. IBUs are calculated. So there's a formula we use, and it's very particular.
IBUs are a weird thing, and it tells me an IBU number, but the problem with that is it's not always 100% accurate, because like in the leaf peepers where we're adding all these hops super late in the process, it's an insane amount of hops, but they're not contributing any bitterness. So sometimes the calculator doesn't give me a number that really coincides with what you're tasting.
And IBUs, for those of you that aren't savvy to beer jargon, international bitterness units. So it really applies mostly to hoppy beers, because the other beers, the stouts and porters, are generally low on the hop profile. They're going to be. So this one has the most hops in it.
When I plug it into my calculator, it says 0 IBUs though.
Yeah, because of the way we use the hops, we don't get that bitterness, or we shouldn't. And I do like this beer a lot. This is kind of my go-to at the end of a night, and here I'll grab a Leaf Peepers. The funny thing about these beers too, so obviously some breweries up in the Northeast or the New England area were the first ones to produce it, hence it's a New England style IPA. And for the longest time, you couldn't figure out, we all the different breweries across the country trying to figure out, how are they doing this? How are they making this hazy beer with all this hop flavor? Because it was a completely different way to brew. So after a lot of experimentation and talking to other brewers, we sort of figured it out. But it's funny how these secrets are sort of kept close to the vest sometimes, and there's not a lot of knowledge shared. If you're doing something that really takes off, sometimes people don't want to share how they're doing that. All right,
Last one.
we're gonna pop this last can. So this is Ghost Rider, and it's a robust porter. So if you know porters and stouts, all porters are stouts, but not all stouts are porters, if that makes sense. The porter is a subcategory in the stout category. And generally, porters are a little bit less roasty, a little more chocolatey, a little lower alcohol. This is a robust porter. So is this 7.32?
7.3, yeah.
7.3% alcohol. So it's a big porter. Most porter is going to be about 4%. This is it got a lot of flavor to it. And with this one, you're going to get a lot of chocolate flavor out of it. And it has nothing to do, we don't add chocolate to it. But the type of malt we use is chocolate malt. So depending on how this grain is roasted, gives you your different flavors, especially with the dark beers. We don't use any roast in this, do we?
No, it's just chocolate malt, little crystal.
Chocolate, crystal, and we do add vanilla beans at the end of the process.
Yeah, it conditions on vanilla beans for about 2 weeks.
So, funny story about vanilla beans too. When we first start making this beer, vanilla beans were whole vanilla beans, and then it comes out to about 70 beans. We slice them in half by hand, and then add them to a mesh bag, and then put them into the beer. I think we're using 2 pounds. No,
2 pounds, yeah, 2 pounds.
So vanilla beans are only grown in certain places of the world: Madagascar, New Guinea, Guyana, I think, and maybe certain places in Mexico. It takes a certain insect to pollinate the plant because we don't have the right insects. I've learned a whole lot about vanilla beans, things I didn't really care about. So there was vanilla beans in these countries. The prices got so low that the farmers decided to plant and go to other crops. And vanilla beans are now $400 a pound. Just prohibitively expensive. We're still using them because, you know, that's in the recipe. We're not going to change it. But yeah, vanilla beans are hard to get your hands on these days. No, the beer doesn't give you gas.
No, I don't think so.
No, only if it's really overcarbonated. So this is more of an after dinner.
A little
drink.
sweeter, yeah.
Yeah. It's nice. I occasionally will smoke a cigar, and this is a good cigar smoking beer in the fall. We sell it year round, and it's a big seller. But I always think of dark beers as cold weather beers. We came out of the gates with a Russian Imperial Stout and a porter right off the bat, again, because it's all about me.
Well, it's proven to be really beneficial to us. There are a lot of people out there that want dark beer all year round. And we, as far as I can tell, are one of the few breweries in the area that will have a stout on during the summer, that has a porter on year round. A lot of people just don't do it. They're like you. They have that same train of thought. They're you don't want to drink big beers in the summertime, so they don't brew them.
Yeah, and I get that. But at the same time, we have this conversation all the time. This is, if we were brewing beer just for me, we do a couple IPAs and about 6 different Russian Imperial stouts, and that would be it. But we make a lot of different beers because people like a lot of different styles of beer. And you can find, everybody has a beer that they like. And I have you have a lot of different beer. I like sours. We were the first brewery in Hampton Roads to come up with 2 sours. Sour options, yes. Yeah, so we have a Berliner Weisse, which is a traditional German sour beer. Weisse, the longest time. Now we're using a pure bacteria lactobacillus culture. And we have a Goza. Now the Goza is a little different in that the Goza is a beer that has a little bit of saltiness to it. Need going off, is it? Somebody's, I don't know if you hear that, somebody's alarm's going off in the back. So the Goza is a sour beer with a little bit of salt added to it. And the reason that it's got the salt, and we're not drinking that one today, but you can get that one in the brewery, is that the part of Germany where that beer originated from, back in the day, they had contaminated their water supply with salt mining. They mined so much that the water table then contained salt. So all the beers that they brewed were salty. And they didn't understand fermentation at all, so they got infected with bacteria. So they brewed these salty, sour beers. And it was a style specific to the Goslar area of Germany. And it was brought back to the United States, and only in the last 10 years has it gotten popular again. When we opened, we had a Berliner and a Goza on tap, just again because we love sour beers too. So we always have those 2 on tap.
Actually, 2 different Gozas on tap right now.
So I think we missed one question. What's the best beer to go with barbecue?
Ooh, my go-to is always an IPA. For barbecue, for meat, any kind of like meat dish, any kind of spicy thing, always an IPA. Usually something kind of crisp, like West Coast style. So Rockers is usually my typical go-to for that.
Ghost pepper Goza. Yeah. So we do use peppers in a lot of our beers. We do a pineapple habanero blonde ale. So the pineapple and the habanero just kind of balance each other out. And we use ghost peppers. And these are all peppers from our own garden. We have a big garden out back where we're growing peppers again this year. And the ghost pepper is one of the ones, it doesn't take too many. We give you that heat. But the ghost pepper Goza is sour, salty, and it's got just a little bit of heat to it. It's not a real, it won't really torch you.
What do you think about a beer to go with quiche?
Beer to go with
I was
quiche.
just thinking quiche is kind of heavy, maybe something a little lighter, a little crisper.
I would
Lager,
think maybe
I'm thinking
the lager.
lager. Yeah.
You guys are making me hungry.
So there was a question about maybe bringing in a kitchen. I know that you guys have all of the food trucks on your property, but do you want to open your own kitchen inside?
You know, we've thought about that, and at this point, I love to eat, but I don't know anything about cooking or running a restaurant. So I think we're not going to do that. I think we're going to stick to rotating food trucks around. There are some really good food trucks that come in here too. We get the Redwood Smoke Shack, even though they've opened up a brick and mortar, they still bring their food truck out here. And we're one of the only places they bring their truck. And if you've never had their barbecue, it's amazing. Last night we had Blackwater Barbecue, another great barbecue. Donnie's Barbecue.
A lot of barbecue down here.
A Bite of Maine, which is Lobster Rolls. Yeah, they're doing it better than I could do. I'm just curious, have most people been to the brewery? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's quite
I
an
have.
you know, it's been 2 months since we've had people in our brewery, and it's killing us. I'm trying to beer.
All right.
Normally, this place is just on a Friday night. It's hopping. It's full of people and kids, and you can bring your dog in here. And right now, we're limited to outdoor seating. We're not allowing any kids in here right now just because of social distancing issues, and we don't allow dogs in here right now. But normally, and once we get back to normal, which will come, this place is really quite an event. And if you come in and I'm in here, I'll be happy to give anybody a grand tour of all the equipment. I love talking about the beer and how we started, all the stuff we've got set up here. It's amazing to me. I wonder if I take that camera and just pan around.
What's the best part of owning a brewery?
Oh, the best part of owning a brewery. Wow. I never really thought about that. Not the money. Oh, I'm in over my head in debt. But the best part of opening the brewery is, honest to God, this is going to sound cheesy, but I have 500 friends now in Chesapeake. I can't go to the grocery store without people saying, "Jim, how are you?" Which is amazing. I had 5 friends in my life before we opened this place, and now it's this big family. That's the best part. And someday it'll be money. It always kills me when I hear people say, "Man, I'm going to open up a brewery. I'm going to get rich." And it's like, no, you got to do it because you have passion for it. Because if you're doing it to get rich, you should go into the stocks or something. This is not the place to get rich. You have to have a passion for making the beer. And we had that for years. I was in a little neighborhood club that we call ourselves the Beer Club for Men. And we would meet every Thursday night. We did this for 5 years straight and drink different beers from around the world. And in 5 years, we traveled all over the country for beer releases and beer festivals. And in 5 years, we had about 5,000 different beers that we had personally tasted. And we had and Sean was in that club too. So we had a passion for beer. When I get people that say, I'm going to open up a brewery, what advice would you give? But I always tell them, drink 1,000 IPAs so that you know what a really good IPA tastes like. Looking at some of the questions.
Strongest beer we've ever made.
Strongest beer we've ever made. Is that the Belgian Strong Ale, maybe?
No, it's definitely one of the Stout.
State Fair's
11% on a good day. In
Virginia, you can't brew more than 15. We haven't cracked that yet, and I don't know if I want to, but 11's pretty strong. Oh, somebody commented on our staff. Yeah, we have a great staff. My daughter works behind the bar, friends of ours, kids that work behind the bar. And the cool thing about it is the folks, and I call them kids because I'm old, but the kids working behind the bar, they don't leave. They stay here, which is great. So they know the customers well. And yeah. Ooh, somebody challenged me to my 1,000 IPA. I was exaggerating a little, but I've had a lot of IPAs. There's hardly an IPA in the world that I haven't tasted. Okay. Yeah, we had friends. I mean, we went out to the Great American Beer Festival as attendees. I was out there twice. Some of the other guys had been out there 3 times. They were flying out to Seattle and San Diego just for beer releases. That then they would buy the beers and send it back. It was out of control. That's a great question.
Events are all up in the air right now.
Oh, the boiler kicked on. Yeah. It's all really up in the air. We've had so many charity events and dog adoption events, and I don't know what's going to happen. As soon as we get open again at a decent level, we'll start doing those things again. In the Battle of the Beers, the 757 Battle of the Beers, which is we get to choose a charity that we donate any winnings to.
My favorite beer fest that we do in the summer.
We didn't win last year. Out of 34 different breweries, we came in second, but we have won 3 out of the last 4 years. So we're planning on going back and winning this year. We're not allowing dogs on the patio right this second, but in a few weeks, I think as soon as we can open up the inside a little bit, we'll start allowing dogs back.
So Jim, did you want to tell everybody about the mezzanine that you have in there? We talked about it before we let everyone in.
Yeah.
Or is that a surprise?
Oh, I'll talk about it
a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know I can show it to you, but I can talk about it. So the original plans for this building, and we built this building as a brewery. It wasn't existing. We planned it all out. The initial plan included a second floor mezzanine in the back of the tasting area. And what happened was we ran into some issues. We had to put a very expensive turning lane out on Route 158 in front of us, and we didn't have the money to do the mezzanine. So it got put on the back burner. But before coronavirus hit, we went ahead and said, let's do the mezzanine. We paid for it, and it just happened to be, the timing was just right, because as soon as we closed down, the guys came in and put the mezzanine up. So we have the Volkswagen bus, that's my old bus, that you can actually sit in, and it's raised up on the mezzanine now, the second floor, and the mezzanine looks over the tanks. I'll go ahead and show you.
Yeah, you can.
Why not? Let's see if,
pick it up.
just don't tell anybody. All right, so there it is. That looks out over the whole brewing area, and you can see the brewing area behind me. Oh, all the different tanks. This is the pretty area. There's a separate area back behind the garage door that's got more tanks, but some of them are older tanks that we've had for years. This is all the new stuff that we've got. Nobody wants to look out over the old stuff. But the mezzanine will be available for private parties. I think we can fit about 30 to 40 people up there easy. If there's no private party, it'll be available for adults to go hang out. Fortunately, we're not allowing kids on the mezzanine, and I know a lot of kids used to love going into the Volkswagen bus. But we have a 72 VW Beetle, which we also brought in during this closure, and it's been gutted out, and kids can get in there and hang out and do whatever they want. And that's on the lower part below the mezzanine.
Any more questions? Any last questions? Lamont's typing.
We have a lot of weird stuff in here too. We have an old phone booth. We have our phone. The phone booth came out of the Navy base in the 1950s. The stuff that people have given us over the years.
I got a text question. I think someone was asking about some of your charities.
Chesapeake
Cares is the big one. We give a lot of money to Chesapeake Cares, the 31 Heroes. I don't know if you're familiar with that charity. 31 Heroes is it's a charity for it was in Afghanistan, the helicopter, the SEAL team that went down. And we actually do a beer, 31 Heroes Kolsch. And every time we brew the beer, we give a major donation to that charity. Who else? It's not Wounded Warriors, but it's another They're going to kill me.
Yeah.
It's another Wounded Warrior charity that they have. They do fishing camps, and they've got some like mountain houses for Wounded Warriors. Oh gosh, there's so many of them. We do a lot of different youth organizations, a lot of teams of Crocs for Kids. That benefits CHKD. So CHKD comes in usually once a month, and they sell food for donations, and those donations go to CHKD. We host St. Baldrick's here, which is why I have the bald head. St. Baldrick's is a great charity.
Chesapeake Farmers Market.
The Chesapeake Farmers Market. That's something we've started this year. So you can get online and order farmers baskets, vegetable baskets, and then come pick them up here on certain nights.
Pirate Festival.
I don't know about the Pirate Festival. That was a fun festival.
That was a good time.
Yeah, I helped save a man that was in distress after that, dressed like Johnny Depp. There's a story there. You'll have to get that one first. Trust me, it's something he'll never forget.
Someone asked about a UVA Club of Tidewater discount.
We don't have one, but we probably should.
I'm sure if you drop your name and the right person's here, you'll get a
Yeah.
discount.
Yeah, you come see drink it for free. Yeah, so Erin is here. So we split weekends now. So Erin is Sean's wife. She's here every other weekend, and then myself and my wife are here on opposite weekends. So one of the UVA grads are always in here.
The $15 price is the price point basically for our lager. The IPA and the porter are a few dollars more. I want to say 17 or 18, $17 a 4-pack. So it's a couple bucks more, but $15 is essentially.
It's kind of a mix, yeah. I don't know how much canning we're going to do. Once we get open again, like I said, most of our beer gets sold in house.
I'm thinking every couple months we'll probably do some cans.
We're going to try to put some cans out as much as we can, but it's hard to keep up. The people at Chesapeake are thirsty.
So I have a text question from Gary and Chris to talk about the Ton Up Club.
The Ton Up Club, yeah, that's actually the shirt I'm wearing tonight. It's a Ton Up shirt. So the Ton Up Club, it's like our mug club. And a ton up, if you do the ton, that means you did 100 miles an hour on a motorcycle. So we have a ton up club that's members only, and you can buy into it. And we restricted it 200 people. You get a shirt, and you get a growler, and you get discounts. And then we have a party every year for the ton up club members, and we do a beer, a one-off beer just for the ton up club members. It's pretty cool, but the competition to get in is hard. If you got in early, it's like Redskins tickets. You never give them up. The beer this year we're doing for the Ton Up Club is a whiskey sour. So we got a bourbon barrel. We put Berliner Weisse in it, which is a sour beer. We're going to juice it up with some lime extract. And the goal is to make a beer that tastes like a whiskey sour. We'll see. The jury's still out. We also have another beer that is in barrels right now. It's what is that one? The Goza in tequila.
That's Berliner too.
Oh, Berliner?
Same beer, but in tequila barrels.
So we do a little bit of tequila barrel aging. Once a year, we try to do something in a tequila barrel, make sort of margarita type beer. But most of the barrel aging stuff is in bourbon barrels.
Oh, someone said, did the Hokies win a natty? I think the beer's going to people's heads now. So we have a question. I got another text question. you've done this with us as a group, but are you thinking about doing this with other groups? What's your thought on doing this again?
Oh, I'd love to do it again.
This is fun.
Yeah, as you know, I can talk and talk and talk and never at a loss for words. We do a lot of beer dinners too with area restaurants. Butcher's Son has done a couple. We've done some at Passion, which is a great deal. If you ever see a beer dinner with Big Ugly, get in on it. It will have 4 to 5 different beers that pair with each course of the meal. And I'll come out and describe the beer, and the chef will come out and describe the food. And it's usually a lot of fun.
Okay.
A triple.
Belgian triple. Oh, man. I get asked that one all the time. We should probably do one of those someday.
Yeah, there's a long list of beers that we want to get to.
Is there a Wednesday's run club still going on?
Yeah, there is. Again, they're kind of in shutdown mode, but yeah, the Burp Club, they're called. The Big Ugly Running Posse. So we have a run club, we have a softball team that we sponsor.
Oh, wow.
We have a hockey team we sponsor. Oh, I forgot about the Pints for Prostates.
Oh, Pints
another
for
big,
Prostates. That was another good
another
one.
big thing we do. Pints for Prostates has a ride that they do, a motorcycle ride once a year, and they go to a couple different breweries on the way, and they raise money for prostate cancer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you ever have a charity of some sort that you're interested in, you can always ask. We only have a certain amount of dollars we donate to charities, and we try to keep it at a set amount, but we're always interested in charity donations.
So I think that's all of our questions for tonight. And so Jim and Evan, and please thank Aaron as well. We want to thank you for doing this tasting virtually with us. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. It was fantastic. We all learned a lot about beer, and it's so great to support another Wahoo, 2 Wahoos on your staff. So thank you.
Wahoo wah.
Wahoo wah. Everyone's like.
All right, thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thank you, guys. All right, good night, everybody.
Night.
Cheers.